It's embarrassing. I felt literal shame that I was not the best integrator for my company. One of my skills is finding talent. I've always been good at that. So once I realized that, I'm like, okay, do I have anyone internally that could be an integrator? And I think he's 23 right now, to this day, right now. But his EQ is just so high that we brought him in to run the business. And the business has never been more profitable. That's really, really embarrassing to say publicly.
What's your thought process on figuring out what's the priority fix first for a business?
This business owner was stuck. His company stopped growing until he built one system that most service businesses don't even realize they need, and it helped his business grow 15 times in profit.
Welcome back to the Built Local podcast. Today we have guest Tim Jordan on. He is a service business owner. He runs SG Window Tint and also is now starting to help service-based businesses grow their business and not run around like a chicken with their head cut off. So Tim, how you doing today?
Doing great, man. Glad to be here. I'm a huge fan of Review Harvest, so I was thrilled to hop on and chat with you.
I appreciate it. Yeah, we actually, before we hopped on, he started raving about us. And I was like, whoa, hold up. I haven't pressed the floor yet. So I'd love to get to those questions later. But for anybody who doesn't know who you are, Tim, or about your businesses, give us an overview about you and your business and what you do.
Yeah, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've purchased 5 businesses, sold 3 of them. Yeah, but the first business we ever bought is SG Window Tint. It's actually one of the ones we still own. Absolutely love it. Yeah, it's been a fun entrepreneurial journey. We took a big turn in the middle of it and owned a very large retail flower shop. In fact, I wish I knew Review Harvest at that time. The largest flower shop in the state of Colorado, 100 employees at its peak. It advanced my abilities. I was like a working in the business guy until I became the president of a company that I owned that had 100 people in it. And it was fun. I loved it. But it turned me into an executive and I had to lead my leadership, not do the things. And so owning that and a few other small businesses, I learned so much stuff with all the resources we had at that level. And I pulled them down to smaller companies. So we bought SG Window Tint when I was 22 years old. That was 15 years ago. Loved every minute of it. It grew little by little. And then a couple years ago, 6 years ago, we opened the automotive side because interestingly enough, the window tinting business is actually not as much car window tinting as you think. We do a lot of commercial residential. So CU Boulder's our biggest customer, Denver Broncos, Nuggets players, all that kind of stuff. We go to the houses, to the businesses and tint or film their windows. So that's what we bought. And then, so that's a home services company, right? So that's what I knew. Needed some more resources, like, I don't know, 6, 8 years in, like, let's open a car tint shop. That's the same, right? It's nothing like it's retail automotive services, nothing like it. The people who do the work aren't the same people. Yeah. Anyway, it was a fun ride. We opened one in Denver, which has been great. We're still in that same location. And then I live in Fort Collins, so I live an hour north of Denver. So we opened the spot here a few years after that. And it's just been so fun. I love it. I'm a big proponent of employee ownership. The flower shop was employee owned. And actually, we brought in an employee owner to run the day-to-day operations of SG Window Tint 2 years ago. If you're familiar with the book Traction, he's the integrator. I'm a visionary in these roles. It's the best decision I ever made. He runs the business so much better than I ran it because he knows how to do it. He's in it every day. He doesn't have all these other distractions. And then I'm a process development, problem solver, BD, business development kind of guy. I got focused all my energy on that. Employees are happier because they don't have me thinking around on all the stuff I don't know about. But if they have problems, I can create a system or put things in place to truly solve the problem. So that brings us to today, trying to spend more and more of my time just doing the stuff that I love to do and not trying to do everything within my company.
Awesome. That's good stuff. And you talked about the kind of the forced growth with the flower business, right? Yeah, 100 employees, had to become an executive. Talk a little bit about that time. I feel like, those most stressful times or when we're growing are some of the most painful, but sometimes when you're put in that situation, it just happens. Like just by necessity, you just get better at what you're doing. So talk about that experience. How did you get better? What did that look like?
Yeah, it was such an interesting time. So my wife and I owned 2 flower shops, and then we were approached by our largest competitor to buy them out and merge our companies together. And so his name's Spiro Palmer Flowers. He had these employees had only ever worked for him. Actually, now they've only ever worked for me. And But I mean, working for them for 30, 40 years, their kids are older than me at the time. I was 27 at the time. So it was hard. I had to take the ownership hat off and put a leadership hat on, which is a completely different hat. Like I have to get these people to trust me. Even though I signed their paycheck, I have to earn their trust. Functionally, how it looked is Spiro stayed on as president for 2 years and I worked under him as vice president. And basically, I had to eat the humble pie and just learn the people and the systems and be vulnerable for them to know me as a person, not just as a boss. On the people, because the people side is way harder than the systems growth knowledge side. That comes pretty naturally to me. The
Yeah.
growth to manage 100 people was a very trying time. So, but it just came with humility, trying to connect with people, caring about them. That's big tenet in my all of my businesses is the people aren't a number or a tool, they're people, and we treat them that way. So that's why I spent a lot of time doing that. And then growth from a skill perspective outside of leadership was organizing while I'm drinking from this fire hose because it was a fire hose. You have to kind of prioritize. Okay, this I know this is important. Let me organize this topic. Great, this one's next important. So I guess organizing and prioritizing. And you know what? When we were in it, when I was 27, 28, it felt like I would never master it. Like, what did I do? What did I get myself into? I'm way over my head. A couple of years later, like, I got this. I know all this stuff. That is the entrepreneurial experience, right? We have to bite off more than we can chew. And then we just have to problem solve till we can chew it.
Yeah. Yeah. Eventually you figure out how to swallow, right?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So,
Well, that's incredible. And talking about bringing what you learned at that scale down to smaller businesses, how did that translate into SG Window Tint? How did that help you prioritize? Like, I think just what you said about how do you even figure out, okay, there's a million different things broken with this business. We're going to work on this one first. Like, what's your thought process on figuring out what's the priority fix first for a business?
That's a really good question. I think it's impact. It's like, where can I make the very most impact in this business? In impacting the important things, which people are the most important thing. Revenue, I would consider a very important thing, and then margin, right? So what things can I make the most impact in one or all of those areas and choosing that to bite off. Now that's all a little bit tongue in cheek because I believe systems, you have to have systems in place. And that's both sides. Okay. That's when I say systems, you could either think tech stack, SOPs. It's both, right? I need a tech stack and then I need SOPs around it. So I guess to answer your question, that's really, really where it comes from because I can't, or where we should be because I can't make any improvements, in my opinion, or any durable improvements without having both sides of my system in place.
Gotcha. Okay. What do you see when you've talked to, and I know we'll dive into this more, but when you've talked to other service-based businesses trying to help them grow, what would you see as some of the lowest hanging fruit that just like immediately you're like, hey, this is an absolute no-brainer. You need to be doing this tomorrow. Does it vary a lot per business, or is there one that you see that's like almost, that's very consistent? You're like, hey, we need to get this dialed.
It varies some, but service business owners, especially smaller service business owners, it's all about this topic here. It's all about GBP and reviews, in my opinion. I do for cause, I do some informal coaching here for the past few years for early cycle service business owners. I can't tell you how often, like, oh, what condition is your GBP in? Or I'll search them up and check out their GBP. And if they haven't filled out, but they will respond to me, what's GBP? So I think that to me, managing your GDP and your reviews are the most important things. Reviews are, I think, becoming kind of a currency, a digital marketing currency that you just want more and more and more of them. The other thing that we're seeing, especially the AI revolution, we're seeing Google ads because that's how I built my business. I would have answered some type of paid advertising route probably 5 years ago, but we're seeing so much variation in performance of Google ads, LSA, even at Meta, the paid advertising realm is changing so much. Well, then what do I want to do? I want to get control back of my digital advertising. And how do I do that? That's by the currency of reviews, and that's by organic ranking, and that's by meeting my decision makers, the people potentially making a buying decision for window tinting, where they're making that decision. And in my opinion, for a service business, that's on a GBP, that's on Google Maps.
Yeah. Wow. Well, and I know we talked about this a little bit before we started recording, but I know that you tried a lot of stuff for reviews. So we can double click onto that. What were you doing originally for reviews? What are the things that you tried and what have you ended up on?
Yeah, review wise, especially if you look across my companies, we've tried every. um, I have a company on Jobber. I really like Jobber. Jobber Reviews is the worst review gathering. um, I've had Go High Level. I've ad agencies for both our service companies right now, and they both are on Go High Level, and they both use or offer some type of review gathering service. It was fine. It's always been fine, but in the window tint industry, similar to Jobber, there's an industry specific one called TintWiz. We've used TintWiz reviews in the past, but actually I got referred to Review Harvest. We use Review Harvest across the board to answer your question. I got referred to Review Harvest actually in checking out the Jobber review platform performance on a Jobber Facebook group. And I made a post about it. And I bet like 10 people commented about how much better Review Harvest was than Jobber reviews. And I actually didn't immediately switch. It took me a little bit of time. I track review rate. Depends on the company as to what a review rate is. Typically, it's in that 10 to 12% range. But yeah, we're seeing 25, 30s across the board right now. We had a month at one of my other companies at 62%, which was just freaking awesome. I'm a huge proponent. I think it's really the strategy that you use, play with the photo, making the connection, like the personal connection, and then also having their name on it, kind of making a time commitment connection. I think that's a beautiful harmony that you guys have created and it works.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the kind words, and we put a lot of time into that, and that's the thing that we really bank on. We're going for people that are interested in the highest review conversion rate possible, and we've got lots of other fun stuff coming out. But the whole root of it comes down to, hey, we know we can get you reviews. So yeah, I appreciate you noticing that. But when it comes to managing a Google Business Profile, or it comes to just some of the other SEO stuff, what are you looking at when you're looking at somebody's profile and they're like they don't have anything filled out? What are some of the first things that you're doing to kind of get their online presence dialed in?
Yeah, so it starts with completeness. You you gotta fill not just like fill it out, fill every possible field out. And I recommend taking a step further. There's that Q&A section that's designed for customers to ask questions. But you can go on there and ask a whole bunch of questions that your customers normally ask you and then answer them. So completeness is job one for sure. But a lot of people don't. The other thing I look at if I'm trying to help somebody with it is, are you posting? A lot of people don't even know that they don't call it posts. It's called updates. Not only can posts like a mini social media that you should be posting when we're growing our business. So say we have a shop that's maybe struggling at SG, it's just whatever. We're not on the trajectory that we want. We'll start posting every single day on GBP it's an activity trigger, right? So those are the easiest things. The other things that I recommend is you have to check regularly Google adds functionality to GBP or changes functionality for GBP without telling anyone. I don't know why they do it. It would seem easy for them to push out an email to all of us, but to have a quarterly reminder in my inbox to go through and check every single one of my GBPs to see. It was just like 3 or 4 months ago that they added the text messaging functionality where you can add a phone number that your clients can text. That's huge. They never said anything about it.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's massive. And like a year or two ago, they added like social media, linking your social media
Yep.
account.
Mhm.
Seems like
Yep.
no brainer. Like, why
Yeah.
wasn't that there forever? Social media's been around for over a decade now, and yeah, just kind of trickled it out. And I remember looking at most of my customers' Google Business Profile. I'm like, no, none of them have filled this out. I was like, yeah, I think we would let them know.
Just to put a bow on it, the only other activity trigger or signal, like there's not a lot of interaction other than what I've said you can or control that you have over your GBP. The other activity signal is reviews. And it's not just review count. A lot of people like focus on like how many reviews I have, and that matters. Like that is an important authority trigger, but consistency, you need to get a number of reviews. It's different for all of us what that number is. My minimum for Mold Removal Express is 3. It's got to be a minimum of 3 reviews a month. At SG, we really need like 30 reviews a month to keep that. But it's not just review count, it's consistent review activity.
For sure. And hey, Y'all hear it from me all the time. I'm talking to y'all about review velocity and talking about recency of reviews, quality of reviews, quantity, total reviews. But here's another third party source. There's a lot. Everybody knows this. I'm not just saying that because we do review harvest over here. But yeah, no, marketing stuff is huge. We talk about marketing all the time in this channel. But I think one thing I really want to double click on with you, since you have the experience, is you've already talked a lot about numbers and kind of tracking stuff and systems. And so what is kind of do you have maybe somebody that's not tracking anything? They're literally like, hey, I see how much money comes to the bank account and I see how much money goes out, and that's it. And they don't have anything else on, tracking their website traffic or whatever. What would you say is the first couple steps to actually get some metrics in place, develop some KPIs or some tracking system so that you can actually understand what's going on with your business and if the changes you are making are having improvements?
Yeah, we call it scorecard, right? We borrow that terminology from Traction or EOS. And I think the first step is you need a goal, right? And then you have to break it down. People, small service business owners, they get really stressed out when you say the word goal or KPI. They're like, how do I even start with one? Well, where do you want to be in a year? Pick a couple of metrics. Sales is usually one of them. Lead volume is usually one of them. I don't know, whatever it is. Just take those two. I also include leads in that, but say take those three. It's like, okay, where do I want to be in a year? Okay. If I want to be there 1 year from today, where do I need to be at the end of this quarter? Okay. Then I'm a huge proponent of then breaking it down to day. I need a daily goal that I can swing at and a way to track that goal. Many of us using project management softwares, it's already in there, reports, dashboards, whatever they want to call it, analytics, whatever they want to call it, it's in there. You can track your daily goal within that. But even if you don't, just Google Sheet. I can tell you for SG on the automotive side, our installation scheduled daily goal is at least 6 installs scheduled. Our daily sale goal is $3,000 in revenue, and our average job size should be $400 a job. If I hit those goals more often than not, I'm going to hit my quarterly goal. I hit my quarterly goal, I'm going to hit my annual goal. So you need to have an easy way and to regularly track on a daily basis. Now, maybe daily is too much. If so, weekly. It shouldn't be any broader than that. So to me, the first step is breaking it down to a digestible enough number, then measure either through my project management software or through some simple tracking. And then I just need to measure it.
Yeah, for sure. Breaking it down, I remember when I was first starting Review Harvest, I was, had all these big goals or whatever. And I was like, screw all the big goals. I want to get 2 customers this week. And this was like early days. I mean, I had probably 20, 30 people on. I was like, screw all this. I want to get 2 customers this week. Like, how am I going to get 2 customers? And what happens is, like, when it's Wednesday and you haven't gotten one, you're like, all right, I'm going to go through my old leads. I'm going to call my old leads, and then you're like, you know what? Well, that didn't work. I'm going to go see if there's anybody in my network. Let me go look at my contacts and see who I can reach out to. Or like, let me go to the Facebook Marketplace. And for a service business, that might be something different. It might not be going and reaching out to people on Facebook, on Facebook Messenger or whatever. But it's just finding those small actions that are going to get you over that hump. And then all of a sudden, if you start hitting that daily or weekly goal every week, then now you're starting to hit your yearly goal, your quarterly or yearly, your 5-year goals. And so, when you see service businesses getting overwhelmed with goal setting, do you think it's normally because they're set too big of a number, or do you think it's just because they don't have that digestible or that kind of a game plan of how we're going to get there?
I think what I see in service business owners is often living too much in their business. To set a goal, you have to be outside of that mindset, right? You have to be at least a 10,000 foot, probably at a 30,000 foot view. That's where I think they get hung up. Is it's hard for them when they're so busy running from job to job to job, taking all the phone calls, whatever it is. It's really hard to pull out. I don't think it's bad to set a big goal. Honestly, there's some psychology behind setting way too big of a goal so that you rebuild your processes or strip away the noise to achieve that goal. So I think it's less of that, more of the abstract of I got to live at 30,000 foot for a little bit to set a goal.
Yeah, for sure. There's that book that says 10x is easier than 2x.
Yeah.
Because you got to go
Exactly what I was preparing to.
anything. It's not incremental stuff anymore. It's like, what do we need to do from the model perspective where we're changing our activities? That's really good stuff. And so Take me back to kind of the early days at SG Window Tint. What was it like when you were getting started there, and how have you gone from, getting started, I don't know what revenue or what customers were at the beginning,
Yeah.
to now, trying to hit $3,000 a day, and where, you're a lot higher view. Like you're just kind of looking over, making sure everything's going on. Walk me through some of the steps, kind of at a high level overview of how you made that happen.
When we bought SG, it was 150,000 a year in revenue is what we bought. Bought a customer list. There's a great customer list. We still have many of those. So I think the first step was, how do I get more customers? Like that was step one. And I really leaned into that. I learned about digital marketing. I really enjoyed it. The industry's kind of passed me up as far as doing it myself anymore because I'm not a marketing professional. But that was the first problem or evolution, I guess. The next evolution is, okay, now how do I bring on a team? Like, how do I hire the first person? What does that look like? What's the difference between W-2s and 299s and all of that stuff? And I'm a big believer in and a big proponent of performance-based compensation. So we built the entire structure on performance-based compensation, and that has served us very, very well. Even our receptionists, we call them administrators, even our receptionists are paid about 30% of their compensation is on performance based. So that one thought unlocked the idea of us being able to bring on a couple of people and then kind of catapulted the growth. So we started that. We got a couple people in, made a few processes, but everything was pretty much Excel spreadsheet and handwritten document. Now this was a while ago. So that was the next evolution was, okay, how do we install a project management system? They can help us manage our inventory, collect payments, those kinds of things. Once we did those three or four things, now all of a sudden we were growing. So we became a bottleneck. The facility resources became a bottleneck. So we're our flat glass division actually looks pretty similar to what it looked like back then. It's triple the size, but at this point it looked pretty similar. But we needed a shops, so we that's when we decided to jump into the automotive side. That was its own disaster for us. Just I I mean, I knew what a retail transaction is. I knew how to manage a retail experience. And at that point, we had a large flower shop footprint, but I carbon copied the home services model onto the automotive shops, and it just didn't work. Even like my CTAs, Clay, my call to actions on my website, everything was schedule now, right? Because schedule a free consultation is the CTA for so many home services, right? Nobody clicking them on the automotive things. They all want price quotes. Every single person that calls me initially or fills out a lead form is looking for a price quote. So even at like granular stuff, I just had to fail and fail and fail and fail. So yeah, that's how that worked. And then at that point, I was operating kind of like a general manager, right? Because I had the skills. I had this large business. I knew what I was doing. This was simple for me, and I liked it. Now I was so bad. I'm not a window tinter. I can't tint any window whatsoever. I don't understand the issues. I don't even understand, like, I know what quality looked like, but I was so dependent on somebody else for quality control. Then you get into those are the good situations. Then you have the bad situations where disgruntled window tint installer, well, he's got me over a barrel. Like, I cannot step in and do his job. So he can basically just tell me whatever he wants to do. And that's so anyway, we kind of just grew through that, but those issues persisted until until I read the book Traction. It's embarrassing. I felt literal shame that I was not the best integrator for my company anymore. This company that I had taken, I had more than 10x, 15, 20x the revenue and profitability. I'm not the best person to run it anymore. So it took some digesting of that I had become a visionary. And one of my skills is finding talent. I've always been good at that. So once I realized that, I'm like, okay, do I have anyone internally that could be an integrator? And lo and behold, I have this kid. I think he's 23 right now to this day, right now. But his EQ is just so high. Emotional intelligence is so high. And we brought him in to run the business. And the business has never been more profitable. That's really, really embarrassing to say publicly. And it took me hiring somebody else to run the business or he became an owner to run the business to reach its profitability goals. But that's the reality of it. So that's kind of the evolution, and I've grown so much in this. One of the big mindset shifts, and I said it earlier, and I'll say it again, was as we're starting to bring more and more people on, it's just those are people and they are not numbers. They are not tools. They need to be treated that way. They need to be cared for. And taking that posture and that culture, installing that culture in the business has paid back tenfold. We just have no turnover. People want to work for us. Like it makes it so much easier. Even handing the operations over the land, it's like, yeah, our salespeople have been with us for an average of 8 years, or whatever. It's one of those situations. So that was another crucial thing for me.
Wow, I mean, that's incredible that, the lack of turnover, and obviously that leads to so much inefficiency, and sales guys being with you for 8 years, that's impressive. I think you mentioned a lot about growing through it. How much of entrepreneurship, because I know for me, I feel like building the plane while we are flying or taking off the runway, I feel like it's all going. How much of entrepreneurship do you think is that as just a reality? Or do you think it's like for you, since you've been in multiple businesses now, do you think it is so much just like you need to learn how to build a plane? And then maybe in the future, when you get into another business, you can build the plane and you can take off. Like how much of entrepreneurship is really just like, we're going to launch and we're going to build it as we go versus like now with what you know? Are you able to, go?
I think my guess is most, if not every single successful entrepreneur, at least their first, if not their first few times, built the plane as they were launching or some version of that. I definitely did that. Well, and I had my wife along with me in it, and she's an absolute killer also. And so doing that together, because how do you know how to build a plane if you've never built one? You know what I mean? So I'll tell you, it's one of the most exciting things for me, and this is just in the past few years, is that I'm going to have the opportunity to build the plane first and then
Yeah.
fly it.
Yeah.
Every other one of my ventures, we were like, "Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
We want to, yeah, we want to start a window tinting shop or an automotive window tinting shop for this warehouse. Great, there's a space. Let's lease it. Awesome. What do you want to call it? Great, that's a stupid name. Let's do that. Just oh, why don't we share labor across the two businesses? Oh, that's it's just you never cease. I don't think, if at least for the first few times through it, I think you absolutely have to jump off the cliff. I call it jumping off the cliff, right?
Yeah.
Because I've seen so many people that want to be business owners, are gonna be entrepreneurs, and they just spend all that time building that plane. And guess what? They don't know how to build a plane, so it never flies. And if you just do it, you're gonna make mistakes, but at least you're fine. So I think that's a really good observation. That's pretty insightful there.
Yeah, no, I honestly asked that personally as somebody who in the day to day, I'm like, I literally posted a YouTube video a couple weeks ago. Is like, I don't know what I'm doing. And it's more of like it's not like our marketing content. It's more just like documentary for me to like, kind of look back on in 10 years and hopefully be able to laugh at it. But it was like, I literally don't know what I'm doing. And I'm just like trying to do the best on each day. But I'm glad to know that even somebody that, has all, you have the systems mindset and you have that visionary and you have all that experience that, even you're like, yeah, we got to build the plane while we go. We got to jump off the cliff. Go ahead.
We're we're launching kind of an education and community business, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But that required me to start recording training and education content about, I don't know, 2 weeks before the recording of this. That was so uncomfortable for me. To like, okay, well, you need to condense this and streamline it and put it in a digestible. You have to do all of these things. I'm used to just having conversations like this and helping people that way. So you never cease that discomfort. And do you really ever want to? Like, it makes you feel alive. At least I think that's part of the entrepreneurial existence.
I think that most of my entrepreneurial journey so far has been bad days and hard days and struggling and not wanting to do things but doing them anyways. But then once you have that, one day a week or a couple days a month that are good, they make it all worth it. And like looking up and see what you built, it's just amazing.
You highlight why I think you get as granular as possible with your goals because you need those wins. right? You need that week to get 2 customers. That's a win, right? If you set that as your goal for the week, then you just got a W, and it makes all of the no's or whatever other issues you ran into for that week feel a heck of a lot more worth it.
Yeah, for sure, and it's like trainer I think Alex Murray talks about this guy, but it's that trainer that gets his athletes to hit a PR on every single workout. So it might be like, it might be a reps PR in a different position, but they hit a PR, and they track every single movement, and like, for a hack squat today, you went for 415 for 11 reps instead of 10, crats, you hit a PR, and it's just like, again, most of what works and grows, an athlete and builds an athlete or builds a great business is the boring day-to-day work. And so if we can figure out a way to enjoy that and get a win in each day, it makes all the difference. And so actually my next question was about service catalysts. I wanted to zoom in on kind of what was the idea behind starting this? Like when were you like, hey, I want to help people do this and make a business out of it? And what is that going to look like? How are y'all going to help people out?
So we sold the flower shop 2 years ago. I was spending a lot of time there. So was my wife. We are spending, between the 2 of us, 90 or 100 hours a week there, even though we have these other things going on. All of a sudden, I did it. Uh, and I'm a big believer in work-life balance and truly achieving work-life balance. I spend a lot of time with my daughter, an 11-year-old, super fun, helping her in class and doing the dad stuff. So that was great. But the other thing that happened to me is people started like asking me for advice on starting businesses. I get referred, just a friend of a friend. Hey, Mike's starting a new business. Would you mind sitting down with him, have a cup of coffee, and helping them out a little bit? Sure, loved it. 10 to 15 relationships like that got built over about that first year. I realized two things very, very quickly. One, I love it. I loved helping them. I think I was energized. I was kind of lost at that, a little bit lost, kind of
Yeah.
because the grass was greener for me. When if you asked me right before the flower shop what I was going to do, it's like I'll do whatever I want. What do you mean? What am I going to do? And then I get on the other side and I'm like, what the heck am I? So I was feeling a little bit of that. So that entrepreneurial energy that came from those people just like ignited like the fire in my stomach. I loved it. Then to help them get a couple wins, it's like, oh my gosh, that's so fun and life changing for them. So and for me ultimately. But so I realized that, and I realized how I think there's about 15 to 20 core topics that you need to be pretty good at to run a business well, many of which we talked about today just in this brief conversation. But I realized how little they knew about those topics, unfortunately. And this isn't a dig. I was in the same boat. I found that they had heard of about half of them. They were probably doing 3 to 5 of them well. I hadn't even heard of the other half. I can't tell you how many times I asked, "Hey, how's your GBP? What's GBP? Google Business Profile? Was that Google Ads?" It's like,
Yeah,
yes. And you have so many topics like that. So it's like, gosh, when I think back on the 15, 20 years I've been doing this, it's like, how did I gain that knowledge? Well, it was trial and error. It was swinging and missing and not wanting to strike out. So putting something in place to keep that from happening. I started thinking, okay, well, how am I kept getting asked, like, are you going to coach? Are you going to start people for selling coaching to people? It's like, well, first of all, the people I'm talking to, they don't have to and or don't want to invest $300 an hour or $2,000 a month in a peer coaching, peer mentorship program. That's not going to happen. That's part of the reason they get left behind. No, also I don't want to sell myself as a coach. That's just not it. That's not what this is about. I want to try and help people.
yeah.
But I believe in pure mentorship, peer coaching. I think top down, like one-to-one coaching is really hard to be successful. I think it's better when you're experiencing it as a group and listening to one another. Oh, I know there's one other thing I noticed. That's that I was learning a ton by helping them. Like
Yeah.
I brought an idea and then they're like, oh great, I can implement it in this way and this way and this way. I'm like, hold on, which way? What way? Yeah, yeah. So I've made significant changes to my business on things I've learned from coaching people. So what does all this mean? Like, okay, well, I need to find an accessible way to create a community for peer mentorship of early cycle business entrepreneurs. So is that a Facebook group? No, I'm in a bunch of Facebook groups. The content is just so blah. It's got to be something where they pay for. It's gotta you give attention to what you pay for. So started looking at Hermosi and really Ray Blakely, who's in Sold Out Coach and those guys. Just this online, it's those guys are a little bit more education based, but I need to teach these people the 15 to 20 topics also so that we can solve. Anyway, long story short, we came up with the concept. We're going to be built on Mighty Networks, which is similar to School or Circle, but we're building a community that's pure mentorship first. So it's focused on service business owners coaching each other strategically hopefully after they've gone through a brief masterclass and or maybe a cohort implementation of this kind of 15 to 20 key topics. Okay, here's the knowledge. Here's how to tactically pull them into your business, what it means for your business. So that's kind of outside of the community. We're really hoping that there will be a base level of knowledge in the community so that the community is focused on strategy, on great, okay, I'm at this level. How do I've been, GBP traffic's been dropping. Okay. What are some tactics? What are some strategies? How can we really, I've noticed for mine, if I post a video, Google seems to be prioritizing video content right now. It's kind of hard to get video on your GBP because they got to be short. But if you purpose build some video content, run it out on your GBP over the next couple weeks, months, you're going to get that type of a thing. Does that make sense for
For sure. I mean, I think that peer-to-peer style and then also kind of having the North Star of the training you are putting together is so beneficial. I mean, I know that I've paid obscene amounts of money to be in communities where I know that I am probably one of the dumbest in the room, and that's great, and that's like I remember when I was first getting started in marketing, I paid like over 10 grand to be in a community. I think that the training was good, the coaching calls were good, but just being around a bunch of other people in the same situation, trying to grow and have, like, put the money in to say, "Hey, this is" like you said, we pay attention to things that we pay for, and so they put the money in to say, "This is a priority for me," is incredibly valuable, sometimes even more valuable than the training, so that's incredible.
Yeah, it's gonna look like the master class will actually be free to the public, just
Wow.
we're not paywalling knowledge. You can learn more about GPT from ChatGPT than from me. Like, there's
Yeah.
no doubt about that. So, no, we wanna organize some knowledge and disseminate it, so again, so that there's a baseline level, but it's all about a community and accountability. The monthly membership is gonna be $70 a month. Won't be a crazy amount because we also don't want the discussion feeds to be overloaded, but there'll be coordinated, curated stuff going out to help a group of service business owners and ourselves. All of the founders are all active service business owners. We're not going to teach you how we built our business and exactly. That's not it. In fact, we want to learn from you. So, and then there'll be weekly. I think we're going to do office hours, just like basically free coaching hour kind of thing. And then it's funny you brought it up, a scorecard check-in. Accountability is probably one of the other things that that you get out of those communities when they're done well. And we want to have our KPIs and have our goals for the week, and we want to come together as a group and look at them, celebrate the wins, strategize around the losses, but just as a group, hold ourselves accountable that every single week, at least once a week, we know the trajectory that our business is on and we're owning that and we're making sure that it's headed the way that we wanted it to go.
Love it, and where can people learn more information or get started with Service Catalyst?
Yeah, it's the catalystcommunity.com. We just opened up charter membership. Yeah, it's gonna be a fun ride. And I'm really hoping that the community is able to focus on work-life balance. That we're able to one of the original ChatGPT prompts I started with in working through this idea was how can service business owners buy back their time? That's really easy to say to work on the business instead of in it, which is true. How can they also not get divorced? Because they're working 70 hours a week. How can they be present at the time at the kids' soccer games or whatever? And ultimately, what it came down to is how can we achieve the vision that we all had when we started this entrepreneurial journey? Because I don't know about you, I didn't have a vision of working 60 hours a week when I started my company. I doubt many people did. So that's ultimately what it's about. And I'm really hopeful that we can find that focus on that kind of work life balance as well.
Yeah. No, I think the selling point of helping service-based businesses make it to your kids' soccer games is, I mean, that's everything right there. I mean, that is so valuable to somebody that is working 60, 70, 80 hours out in the field all day and wants to just make it to the recital, make it to, the Tuesday night dinner with their friends that they never go to anymore because they're working late. I think that's super valuable. And I'm excited to see how it goes and hopefully see a lot of people buy back their time. And that's awesome, Tim. Well, I appreciate you hopping on. Any parting words for anybody listening to this podcast today?
If you're not already a Review Harvest user, you got to be. I think it's going to be core. I mean, just to tell you, it's going to be core and service catalyst. It has one of my companies had well, the biggest fault of anything was that we couldn't get reviews. In the 3 months we've been using Review Harvest, we have a average 41 to 39 or 41% review conversion rate. It's changing the way we are able to attack our online presence because reviews are currency. So if you haven't checked out Review Harvest, you absolutely have to.
Dang, I didn't even pay him to say that, guys. He just ad hoc. So I'll just slide you a 20 after the recording. But thank you, Ron. Guys, check out the links down below. We'll have service catalyst links down below so you can get started. And yeah, we'll have to have him on again. Comment any questions you have, and we can have him on again. See you, Phil.